Hey everybody, welcome. It is Tuesday, and that must mean it is office hours day. I am here, as we are every week, to answer your questions about Alexa development, design, the voice world as a whole. So fire away. I see we've already got a few great questions here in the chat. And also, I have a guest with me today. Annette, welcome.
Hello.
Good to have you back.
Happy to be here. Yeah, this is so exciting. I love being here.
Good. Well, I do too. So we have a couple of questions, and I'm going to get started on those here. I see that we've got Alex in Germany here. He's one of our resident APL experts, the guy behind APL.ninja. If you haven't been there, please check out that website. It's absolutely amazing. And then Frank has a question. Hi, Jeff. Is there a way for an Alexa skill to be triggered by time of day or by a smart home event? Annette, have you played with this at all? I have an answer, but I always like to give other people a chance to talk if you know anything about this.
I don't think I have a lot of experience with this, but I do have experience with, I guess, just like my own personal Alexa device, just setting up routines.
Sure.
So that my lights will turn on at a specific time.
Yeah.
And I don't have to go flip a switch.
You're on the right path, though. So, by the way, I'm sitting down today. But people, we're gonna try sitting down a little bit today. I have a standing desk, and I'm always fully vertical, and I feel like sitting feels pretty cool. Anyway, the answer to that question, which was from Frank on YouTube, was: is there an Alexa skill to be triggered? Here, I can put these up on the screen. Is there a way for an Alexa skill to be triggered by time of day or a smart home event? So yes, there is. There's a concept in the Alexa app called a routine. And in routines, you can set up a bunch of triggers. So the routine might be something you say, but it could also be a time of day or a smart home trigger or whatever. And once you set that up, then you set a target. And that target can be an Alexa skill. So you could have a specific command or, as an example, let me grab it here. This is a good example. So if you guys haven't seen one of these before, this is the Echo Flex. Let me cover my face. The Echo Flex, it's a little tiny device that plugs into your wall. And they sell this in Europe and whatever. If you haven't seen one of these in that, they're really small, obviously, but they're very cool. And you can plug it into your wall. But on the bottom of it, I haven't opened that. But on the bottom of it, there's a USB port. And that USB port will allow you to like charge your phone or whatever. So if you have it like in your bathroom, you've got a USB port available if you want to charge your phone or your watch or whatever. But on top of that, they make 3 or 4 different accessories that will plug into that device. The first one is just a nightlight. So if you have it like in your hallway or whatever and you have it plugged in, there's just a nice nightlight that's there. But it's also a full Alexa device, right? You can talk to it and hear from it and all that. There is a second one, which is a digital clock. So you could have like a little clock that plugs into the bottom of it and is powered. But the third one, and the one that's most powerful, I'm going to have to walk off camera because I want to show it to you, is I'm actually unplugging mine. That's why you're hearing things fall. But this is the Echo Flex. You can see it's kind of smallish. And there's that USB port on the bottom. But this is the accessory. And so this little guy is a motion. Let's see if I can cover my face and get it to focus. Let's do this. There we go. So that little thing at the bottom is a motion sensor, and that motion sensor allows you to use that as a smart home trigger, which means the way I have my office set up is I have it just sitting over here near the door, and when someone walks into the office, it turns all the lights on for me. So it's an easy, simple motion sensor, and then I trigger an Alexa routine that turns on all the lights in this room for me. So that is... that is the answer to that question is yes, you can use routines inside the Alexa app to be able to solve that problem. All right, so everybody else here saying hi. We've got Alex and Danny Lua and Trey Last is here. Sayakite and Habuma One is here. Let's see. Startup is here. Netty13.
That's me.
Oh, perfect. I guess that makes sense. I think someone was asking, do you have a Twitter handle or anything people could reach out to you with?
Currently I don't, but if you have any questions about Alexa skills, if you go to our contact us page, me and my colleagues will be able to help you out and answer any questions that you have.
Nice. That's excellent. Atul Raj asked, I'm developing a skill on smart home, but when Alexa discovers the device, my Lambda function is not triggered. Can you help me? What could be the reason? I don't fully understand your question, Atul, but I would like to dig into that. Can you give me some clarification? So I'm gonna say back to you what I think I'm reading, which is that you're developing a smart home skill. This is something that controls a piece of hardware that you're working on or creating yourself. And you're saying that when Alexa discovers the device, when I'm pairing that device with my account, my Lambda function is not triggered. Could you help me see what the reason? That's kind of what I read from what you wrote there. Let me know if that's the case, and we can try to take this a step further. I am not very knowledgeable about smart home skills. I mean, I know how they work, but I'm not very good at debugging them. I haven't built many myself. So let me know, Tool, if you can give me some more details on that, and we'll go back. Okay, so Alex has a long question here. I've gotten some complaints that the time in my Alexa skill screensaver is wrong after some time. I use local time to output the time. I suspect it has something to do with the last update on the devices. No question, just a note. I haven't tested it myself, but if it turns out I can reproduce it, I'll use the contact us form to log the problem. Alex, that's perfect. That's exactly what we'd want you to do. It seems like you're on the precipice of finding a bug, and if that is the case, then Contact Us is the perfect place for that. And that lets folks like Annette be able to jump in and go. Now, Annette, you wrote your name specifically as Net. Do you want me to call you Net the rest of this way? Or is it Annette? Or we could go to Annie if you really want.
Whatever. I like all three. All my friends have used any. Yeah, I have heard of all three, and I'm fine with whichever one. And Net is just my online presence name. So, yeah, Annette, Net, Annie, it all works.
All right, Net it is. If you put it on the screen, that's what I'm going to use. That's perfect. Oxygen Box is saying that he recently replaced his router with an Eero mesh system, which I had in my house for a couple of years. I actually just replaced it. And he said he's struggling to get all these smart devices that run at 2.4 gigahertz connected again. So Oxygen Box, I actually have an answer for you on this, only because I have personal experience with Eero. So what I'm going to recommend is if you go into the Eero app, let me see if I can find that here quick. I'll try to show you a couple of screens. So here's what I did. I'm on my home screen, and mind you, I don't use Eero anymore, so that none of this stuff is set up. But let me see if I can get my face off the screen. That maybe a little focus on my phone. Maybe. Come on. Focus. It just does not want to focus. Okay. Well, I'm going to pretend that you can kind of tell what I'm doing here then. So on the screen, I'm going to go ahead and hit Settings. I'm going to go to the Settings page in Eero. And then in there, I'm going to hit Troubleshooting. And in there, I get a bunch of choices, and I'll read these to you. At the top, it says, My device won't connect. So the first choice you get when you say My device won't connect is, my device is 2.4 gigahertz only, which is exactly what you were describing. And if you tap on that, they give you the option to, you can't really read this, but it says you can temporarily pause the 5 gigahertz broadcast to be only, understand why, there we go. It'll let you temporarily pause the 5 gigahertz broadcast so that you can connect all your devices on 2.4. So that is the solution to that. Hopefully that helps you. And that's only because I just happened to have Eero for a couple of years that I know that Oxygen Box. So hopefully that solves your problem, man. Let's see. Alexa for residential question. I know residents can also link their own Alexa account. Can their account create Alexa routines that have access to the apartment smart home devices? And then, is there an Alexa for residential FAQ? Nat, you know anything about this?
I don't know a lot about it, but here is a web page for it, and I just shared it in the chat.
Nice.
And they have their own contact us system where you can just get in touch with them, and they'll be able to answer more questions you have about this.
Got it. I didn't see your link in the chat. Where are you posting to Twitch?
I posted it in the YouTube, and then now I just posted it in Twitch, so that way both of our audience will have it.
That's perfect. All right. So Atul Raj says, yes, I kind of summarized his question properly. So I want to go back and look at that again. Where did that question go? Your Lambda function is not triggered. Can you help me? What could be the reason? Atul, unfortunately, I am not equipped to know the answer for that one for you. I think your best first step, as Net has recommended, is to fill out that Contact Us form, which I think someone just recently posted a link to as well. Looks like Netty13 did that. Yeah, thank you. So, yeah, I would start with a Contact Us request and say, hey, here's what I'm doing. At a minimum, they should be able to tell you where you can see like debug output and stuff like that. But off the top of my head, I don't know the answer to that one, unfortunately, Atul. Let's see. So Startup is asking, are there any skills with code using the Alexa Echo Flex? Well, I mean, an Echo Flex is just another Alexa device, so yes, there are plenty. But I don't know the answer to. I guess I don't know what question you're asking me. Okay. Let's see. Let's see what else we've got. Can more than one Alexa skill run at the same time? Is there a maximum duration that an Alexa skill is allowed to run? Szechuan Fish, this is a good question. This is a tricky one, though, and the cool thing about a lot of these kinds of questions is that it always depends. So, in general, no, only one Alexa skill can be running at the same time on the same device. And that's just the nature of the device, right? It's trying to talk to you. So you couldn't have like two skills interacting at the same time. There's one set of speakers. There's one interaction. That's just kind of how Alexa works. That being said, we have introduced some new technology last summer called, I'm forgetting the term. I was just reading a document about this. We'll call it skill resumption. Yeah, skill resumption is what I was thinking of. So with skill resumption, you could potentially, let's use Uber as an example. You talk to the Uber skill and you're like, hey, I need a ride. And they're like, okay, I'm going to try and find a driver and I'll let you know as soon as I have one. And what the skill does is basically hibernates itself. It goes to sleep. And it's waiting for an event to come from its own server. So at that point, while you're waiting for that ride to come, you could then say things like turn on the lights or play a game or listen to some music or whatever. And you can interact with a second skill at the exact same time while you're waiting for that Uber skill to respond to you. But then when Uber finally has that driver ready for you and they send that event back to skill, the skill will pop up and say, hey, you wanted me to let you know when your driver's ready. Your driver's ready. And that will let you know that that's what's going on. So skill resumption. Net, can you find a link to that?
Yeah, I'm looking for it right now.
Perfect. So Szechuan Fish, I want to help me understand if I'm answering your question properly, but I want to know if that's kind of where you were headed, or did you have something else in mind specifically when you thought about multiple skills running at the same time? Let me know. But that's about the only way I can think of right now that multiple skills could be running at the same time. Data-driven skills is here. Matthew Bloodgood says, Matthew Bloodgood's offering some tips on how to rename the network. Well, using Eero, I don't think it'll let you name the 2.4 and the 5 gigahertz channels to different names. It just broadcasts them both on each frequency. So I'm with you, Matthew. I understand what you're saying, but I don't know that Eero specifically will let you do that. Nettie has crushed it. Thank you for the link. Cool. Fabio's here. Welcome. Good to have you. And I think, oh, I see. Startup was asking about using the USB port in some way. No, there isn't any skill-related access to the USB port, unfortunately. The only thing you can do is use the accessories that are there, and the only one that really provides any kind of trigger is that motion sensor. So an Echo Flex will cost you about $20 if I had to guess on the price, $20 US, and then the accessories are like 10 or 12 bucks each. So it's still a cool way to add a motion sensor. One of the things that I wish motion sensors were better at, and I'll tell a quick story on this, is also knowing when someone's gone. The way they work right now is they're just detecting motion. It's a one-time event. It just fires something and lets you know. And then, as an example, the story I want to share, I have a motion detecting light switch in my children's bathroom here in my house. And the reason that I have that is because in the middle of the night, especially when they were younger, they're 17 and 13 now, but when they were younger, let's call them 7 and 4, they would get up in the middle of the night, they need some water, they need to go to the bathroom, whatever. They get up, they go to the bathroom, they go back to bed. They never once, ever in their history, turned the light back off. So they would go in the bathroom, they would turn on the light, they would do whatever they needed to do, and then they would go to bed. And that light would stay on. So what I did is I installed a light switch that has a 5-minute timer on it. And that 5-minute timer recognizes when they walk into the bathroom and it turns the light on for them. And then after 5 minutes, it turns the light off. So I never had to worry about them turning their lights off because it would happen automatically. The motion sensor for the Echo Flex does not have that functionality where there's any timer that you can set. So I can only really use it to turn the lights on. But I can't have it say, oh, after I've turned them on, I want to wait 5 minutes and then turn them off. That is something I would love to have happen, but it's only smart enough to know when something's happening. It doesn't have the capabilities yet to be able to say, how do I know when a certain amount of time has elapsed and whatever. And maybe there's a way to stitch an orchestration or a routine together, but I haven't figured that out yet. So anyway, that's my quick story on motion sensors. But okay, Fabio asks, how can I earn money with Alexa? That's a great question. There's lots of ways to do that. I'm gonna be as broad as I can, and we're gonna narrow it down to very specific things. So the first way that you can make money with Alexa is to sell your services as a developer to build skills for other people. Skills are in demand. People want to have a voice presence in the same way that 25 or 30 years ago everybody needed to be online. We're seeing the same thing now with voice, where people are like, oh, I probably should have a way for people to interact with my brand or my company or whatever with voice. So that's number one. Number two, and Mark Cuban has been quoted as saying this several times, but if he were a 15-year-old kid, what he would be doing is wandering around his neighborhood asking people if they would pay him to help set up a bunch of other cool stuff in Alexa. You walk in and you know how to build routines and you know how to do smart home stuff, and you show them how to set all that stuff up and get it all working. Your neighbors would pay good money for that in the same way they would pay to shovel the driveway or mow the lawn or something like that. So those are two kind of simple ways, but those are more tactical and don't necessarily scale terribly well because your time is involved in those. So the other ways that you can do this, there are two, is you can sell physical goods and services. So let's say you're a pizza shop and you want to be able to sell pizzas directly through voice on Alexa. You can do that by using Amazon Pay. And so you could sell things, physical, like again, I'm being very specific about this, physical goods and services. You could use Amazon Pay to sell things inside the facility. You can confirm and say, oh, okay, you want a pizza with pepperoni and sausage, perfect. We'll send it over in 30 minutes and we just charge your credit card. That's something you could certainly do. So imagine any kind of physical goods and services. The other side of that is something called in-skill purchasing. And with in-skill purchasing, you can sell digital goods and services inside your Alexa skills. So this is things like coins and hints inside a game, or maybe you have an adventure game and there's a special axe that someone can buy to be able to defeat an ogre. Those kinds of things are digital goods and services. They only really exist inside that game or that experience, but those are things that you can use as well. And there's three types of ISPs. In-skill purchases. There's subscriptions, which are pretty obvious. It's a monthly recurring charge to your user for access to maybe your content or service or whatever. The second one is what we call a one-time purchase, and those one-time purchases are things like the axe. I bought an axe in the game. I can now defeat that ogre, and I get to keep that axe for the rest of the game. That's not something that goes away or wears out or anything like that. The third one is consumable, and that does wear out. That's stuff like coins and hints, or maybe even swords. If you've played the most recent Legend of Zelda game, the Breath of the Wild, in that game, your weapons break over time. And so that's an example of a consumable where you have the sword for a little while or a shield or whatever, and then over time, after you use it up, it is broken, and there's nothing you can do to repair it or fix it. It's just gone. And so whether that happens to be 100 coins or 10 hints or whatever, like those are all things that you can use up. Those are all things that you can sell inside skills as well. And so W. Giorgio mentioned that's like unlocking new characters on a skill called Powers Fighter that he has constructed, which is really fun. So those are all good examples of how you can make money with Alexa. That was a lot, but hopefully that helps.
Yeah, there's also one more way that doesn't have to do with how your skill is built. So we actually have a program called the Alexa Developer Rewards Program.
Yes.
So if you have a high engaging skill, we will actually give you money to further like develop your skill or create new ones. And this is the link for it if you want to check it out. And yeah, it'll tell you the different categories where we look for high engaging skills and how you can be eligible for this. So check it out.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah. So developer rewards is another way where your skill can potentially make some money for you. Very good. All right. So let's see. How is the best approach to create a skill, voice first and after include video, or do voice and video at the same time? So Fabio, my personal experience with voice is that you're always better off building your voice experience first. So take all the visuals away completely. Your skill should be as enjoyable and fun as it possibly can be with only voice and sounds and things like that. And then you can consider, like, you know what, these areas would be specifically great for using APL or some kind of visual interface. But keep in mind that the majority of devices that are out there, even though there are a lot of devices with screens, the majority of devices don't have a screen. There are so many Echo Dots and Echoes out there. And building a skill that only relies on visuals, I think is misguided, because you will end up not serving your customers terribly well when they don't have a screen. And even people that do have a device, like the one here behind me that has a screen on it, when I go into another room, I only have devices without screens. So it's very natural to want to like focus on the visual stuff, but I think that needs to be an enhancement, not an exclusive part of your skill. All right. Next question from Szechuan Fish. Security question. Is a third-party skill creator able to record and store sounds into an external data source? For example, can someone else create an ocean sound skill that secretly records my voice? No, I have really good news for you there. No one has access to your voice recordings. So there's no way for any third-party developer, and honestly, internal people as well, there's no way for anyone to get access to the audio that is recorded when you speak to a skill. What your skill receives, what anybody's skill receives, is a text-to-speech representation of specific elements. In most cases, all you know is the user wanted to hit a specific intent, but you don't even get to see the words that they necessarily used. But if you were to use an intent that had a slot, like the name of a movie, and they say, let's watch Star Wars, all you know is that they want to watch a movie and that they said Star Wars, but you won't get to see or hear or be indicated in any way the words let's watch. You won't know what those are. So you should feel very secure in that regard, because that data is never shared. Okay. Frank says that your links are not showing up on YouTube. Are you posting them to YouTube as well?
Yes, on the YouTube chat, but I don't think YouTube chat does the hyperlink.
Got it.
For that.
Got it. Okay. I am not seeing, like, I have a little aggregation view here. I see comments coming from people on YouTube, but I don't see your comments on YouTube coming through.
Okay, let me try again to see if I can get that in. Let me try.
I just want to make sure you're on, you're actually on our video and can see all that.
Yes.
Okay.
I just tried posting again. Do you see it?
I don't see your links there.
Okay.
In the meantime, I will continue on here.
Sounds good. And I'll try to figure this out.
Okay. Gavin Watson on Facebook said, can you post the developer reward links here too? Yeah, I'll do that. Alexa, developer rewards. Happens when I drop this just all through. Okay. Oh, doesn't look like Facebook wants to cooperate either. Very interesting. Okay, back to questions. Fabio says, can you talk about DynamoDB? We have one inside a skill developers console and the other in AWS. Yes, so they can live in both places. It depends on how you chose to build your skill. But the key to understand is that if you're working with a DynamoDB database from inside the developer console, that means you chose Alexa hosted as your option when you built your skill. We give you access to DynamoDB there, S3. I believe there's also, obviously there's Lambda, and there's CloudWatch logs as well. So all of those AWS services are available to you directly inside the dev console when you are using an Alexa hosted skill. However, if you're building a skill outside or hosting it yourself, that's often when you will have a DynamoDB table in AWS. And so both are fine, both are really the same. It's just about who pays for it really is what it comes down to. And so when you see it in the developer console, that is one that you are not paying or hosting or worrying about at all. And when you see it in AWS, please understand that there are potentially costs with that if you exceed the free tier limits. So that's the primary difference, though. Little Defeat wants to know, I'd like to give the user extra time to think of an answer to a math problem. Is there a way to delay the mic from opening? The solution today that I recommend, and this is something that I use in a number of my skills, is to ask a question and then play some thinking music. Think like the Jeopardy theme song, right? So I will ask the question, then I will immediately play that audio. So because that audio is playing, the microphone doesn't open yet. And then when the thinking music, whatever your thinking music happens to be, when that's done playing, then the microphone opens. And so at the end of the thinking music, I always say something like, okay, what's your answer? And then we open the microphone and go. So that's one little trick you can use to give users an opportunity. The challenge there, and this is something that you're going to have to really be creative with, is that you don't know how long they're going to think. Is it going to take them 2 seconds? Is it going to take them 10 seconds? Is it going to take them 30 seconds? A minute? That's entirely up to you, but keep in mind that if you go too long, the microphone's not open, so when they try to say the answer is 24, it's not listening. And it's not going to start listening until you open that microphone. So one of the things that I often recommend with this solution is that you kind of need to train your users to say the wake word and their answer at the same time. So if the answer was 24 and they know it instantly, but they're waiting for that waiting music, they would need to say, I won't say the name, but A, 24. And then the device would automatically open the microphone. It would hear the 24 and it would treat it as their answer. And that works very, very well. So that would be my recommendation for how you extend that time. That's probably the best solution you're going to have today. You can't use silence. There has to be something audible. I always recommend something that we would consider thinking music. But you could also use a ticking clock or something like that. But there has to be some audible sound that gets made. You can't just play silence. But that should solve your problem. Hopefully that helps. W. Georgia wants to know, what kind of numbers should we shoot for to get rewards? Unfortunately, all of those numbers are variable every month, so there isn't a good gauge to share with you as to say, well, if you hit this number, you'll get in, or you won't, or whatever. You are competing with everyone else. So if your numbers were high and everybody else's were higher, then it's not necessarily going to work out for you. So it would be very hard for me to tell you, like, oh, you need 1,000 users a day. Now, 1,000 users a day probably would get you there, but I don't know that there's any guarantees there. I also know that they don't pay out developer awards for every category every month. At least they didn't used to. I could be wrong on that. But so I would hate for you to be in a category that is not being paid out at all and have a monster month and something like that works out. So now that I say that, I take that back. I think all the categories do apply, but I want to make sure that you understand that, like, it's all relative. And so just because you had a great month, if everybody else had a better month, that wouldn't get you there. So I know that's really vague and not terribly helpful, but that's what I have for you today. Naive Learner wants to know, is there any way by which we can integrate the voice that's used for Alexa as a GTTS voice is not appropriate? I assume you're asking to be able to use the Alexa voice outside of an Alexa experience. And for that, I would say, no, that's not possible. But let me know, Naive Learner, if that's what you mean. Avnish Shetty says, can we create a skill which interacts with other Alexa devices? For example, I want to create a trivia skill which can be played with 2 different Alexa users, each in their respective homes. Yes, you can do this, but there's definitely some work involved. What you're doing is building a turn-based game. I'm standing up again. So in a turn-based game, you would have to have a way to, like, send notifications back to a user to let them know that it's their turn again. But it would be almost impossible to build a game where you are taking alternate turns and you're always live in the skill experience. It would almost have to be a little asynchronous, but in an asynchronous fashion, I think it's very doable. It's a synchronous one that seems a bit challenging to me, because what do you do if one of the users stops? How do I handle that, and how do I work through those scenarios? Or if something goes wrong or something fails, like there's no easy way to update and notify a user on the other end. So I think treating it asynchronously would work very, very well, but I think having a live experience is very, very tricky. I shouldn't have said impossible, because I think impossible is the wrong word, but I think that you have a very challenging prospect there if you're trying to do it live between 2 skills running in different places. Ram Prasad wants to know why Amazon retired the Alexa Skill Developer certification. I think that they go through a regular evaluation period on all of our AWS certification exams to determine the audience, the need, the demand, all that kind of stuff, because they're expensive to maintain and manage. There's lots of questions that need to be generated, tested, and reviewed and monitored. And if there aren't enough people trying to take a test, I would guess that's probably why they shut it down. But I don't know specifically. But they have retired it. I was fortunate enough to be able to not only contribute to it, but also take and pass it. But I feel for you. I know a lot of people were really looking forward to getting in that one. Andy Muncie wants to know when their voice skill will be able to call a user. I assume by call you mean make a telephone call, like an actual phone call to another phone, or do you mean just being able to call a user on another device? I agree with you. Neither of those things are possible today. I'm just trying to understand what your requirements are. India Jean-Jacques from LinkedIn says, what sort of beginner projects and skills for Alexa do you recommend? Well, the first place I recommend people going is alexa.design/start. I have one of those right now. So I would recommend going here, alexa.design/start. And at that website, you will find all sorts of resources to get started. My rule of thumb, though, is that we have what's called a fact skill. And the reason that I like the fact skill as a starter kit is because it's the easiest way for you to go from 0 to having a skill respond to you with your own words. And I think that's one of the most exciting moments is when you can build something and you get it to say the thing you wanted it to say. That's always really exciting to me. So that's why I recommend looking at our fact template. But there's lots and lots of options there. We have plenty of starter templates for lots of different things. So pick one that you like and go. But that fact skill is super simple to get started. Tradelast wants to know, and I don't know the answer to this question, so I'm going to lean on you, Net, if you know the answer, and you may not either. How do skills get selected for the new arrivals in the last 30 days, last 90 days in the skills store? I never seem to see my skills there, and I've seen others ask about this as well. We have a marketing team, a consumer marketing team, right? Their job is to get skills in front of end users, and ultimately they make the decisions about what goes in there. But what I don't know is if there's anything that you specifically can do. I would say probably not. But Ned, do you have anything to contribute to that one?
Yeah, so like Jeff said, everything is determined by marketing. They're the ones that do the review to figure out which skills to feature. But if you do write into us through our contact us page and let us know that you would like your skill to be featured, we could submit a request to them so that they'll review it. But it's not guaranteed that if you do that, your skill will be featured. It's just an additional way for them to review and see if they'll add your skills to like the newsletter or like the new arrivals section of the Alexa store.
Yeah. Okay, so Naive Learner was asking about building their own custom chatbot and being able to use the Alexa voice for that. No, unfortunately, that's not possible. Alexa only lives in Alexa devices, but there is a giant pile of devices at Amazon Poly, which is an AWS service, and those are available to be used for anything that you'd like. So I would recommend checking out the Poly voices, but no, you can't use the Alexa voice outside of Alexa. Fabio's asking a question about different languages. What's the best approach? Should I start first on my language, my native language, and after translating to another language, or create using an I18N? So I think it depends greatly on how you want to manage all of that content, because you're talking about every single utterance, everything that Alexa might say in your native language also needs to exist in each of other languages. You can't have some Portuguese or some Spanish. Like, it all has to be fully in the language that you indicate. So there's a number of ways to do that. I18N is certainly an option. And if you're building this exclusively by yourself, that's probably fine. But let me show you something else that I've done. You could do this with any database, so never mind the database itself. Just I want to give you an idea of how this can all play. Find. No, that's not the. This one. Yeah, so here, let me share my screen really quick, and I'll show you what I mean. Okay, so I'll blow this up a little bit. This is a database that I have for a trivia game that I'm building. And you can see that I have all of my speech. Everything that my skill says is stored in this database. So I have different speech types, achievements unlocked, action queries. Action query is like, what do you want to do next? Answer prompts, by accepted, by declined. I've written all of these out in English, which is my native language, right? So I have lots and lots of goodbyes, speech cons, wrong answers, right answers, cancel, decline. Like, there's all sorts of different things that I have going on inside the skill. And I've just given them labels. These labels don't mean anything. This is just what type of speech it is. But you can see that I have a locale here. So as I get deeper into this and I continue to publish this out, I might say, oh, you know what? Out the door dinosaur, this is a really good one in UK English too. I can use this in multiple places. So I could add a second locale to this, let's say ENGB. And now when my skill says goodbye, automatically it's going to search this database and pick one randomly, but it's only going to pick them from the locale that the user is currently using. So what this allows me to do is store all of my speech in one place in multiple languages, but even allows me to have the same phrase across different languages if it makes sense, right? Like adios amigos is technically Spanish, but we use that a lot in English. And so I could use that in both of those languages and that would be fine. So that kind of stuff all comes out of my database. I use it. I built some randomization. So I just go in and say, I want a specific goodbye message. It randomly plucks one for me, brings it back to my skill, and that's what I say. It also allows my skill to seem very different, very conversational, because it's always different speech every single time. A lot of this stuff gets mixed up and changed. And the reason that I say that I like this is because I can have other people collaborate with me on this. If you use something like I18N, that's a code file that lives inside your project. And so to have people that are just content creators, not developers, be able to contribute to your project, they have to send stuff to you, and then you have to update your files and deploy them. This is a live database, and I can send anyone into this database that has access and say, hey, if you'd like to add some more responses, you can just come in, make sure the label is the same, and as they add them, they're instantly live and ready to go. One of the other things that this gives me the ability to do is to test things. So if I wanted to use one of these and let's say this one isn't working well, or I don't like the way it sounds, I can come in here and I can just say, oh, this is disabled now. And the moment that checkbox is checked, it is immediately pulled from any kind of circulation. So it will not show up in any of the queries for anything else that I do. So I think I18N is good if you're a solo developer and you're just building by yourself. But as you start to grow up, as you start to get more mature and have more people contributing, I think moving your data to some kind of database and doing something like this will save you a ton of time and hassle in the future. Anyway, that's my soapbox on internationalizing content. Have you ever seen something like that, Ned? Have you seen other people try to solve a problem that way?
I haven't seen a lot of in detail of how people do it, but I do see a lot of skills with multiple locations or locales a lot. And it's like a great way for you to expand your audience and get your skill across to different skill stores and to different people.
Fabio wants to know if I can get access to a DynamoDB table hosted by Alexa from an external source. Yes, I believe so. What you would need to do is connect to that DynamoDB the same way that you would connect to any other. You would probably need to use some sort of SDK or something like that to talk directly to the database that you want. But inside the Alexa hosted, there should be the database's address, and that address would allow you to point to it from anywhere, I think. OxygenBox and Data-Driven Skills want to know about how they get more reviews of their skill. One of the things that I recommend for folks, especially lately, is to make sure that you're in the Slack server that we have for Alexa developers. Getting into Slack, there is a channel there that is called Beta Testers Wanted. And my recommendation is to go in there and post your skill and say, hey, I'm looking for people to test my skill. Maybe you're offering something for it. Maybe it's like maybe they get something exclusive in the game, or maybe you're handing out $5 Amazon gift cards for beta testers. Who knows? Whatever your incentive is, that's fine. Some people will do it just out of the goodness of their heart as well. But I would recommend starting in the Slack and saying, hey, I'm looking for people to review my skill. Give me some feedback. That's the place that I would do it. Slack is an incredible community of people that not only want and use Alexa stuff, but also understand how they're constructed. And so they'll have often better feedback for you because they know what you're doing and how you're trying to do it as they go through your experience. Data-Driven Skills is pimping a virtual Alexa meetup that's coming up. They're going to be building a skill on May 21st. Very cool. Let's check that out. We are caught up, though, with 14 minutes to go. 14 minutes to go. What other questions do you all have for us? Ned, did you do anything fun this weekend? Did you get out of the house?
Yeah, it was really nice. I went rollerblading, and I'm also cat sitting 2 super cuties right now. So having a lot of fun with them.
That's super cool. My wife and I, and our kids, I guess, we foster kittens. And so very frequently we will have anywhere between 4 and 8 kittens living in our house. We have a spot in the basement. They live most of the time. And then as they get bigger, we'll let them out and hang out. Since we have a minute, we have a few more questions here, but since we have a minute, I'm going to see if they're up right now. And if they are, I'll bring one in.
Awesome. And Oxygen Box said that he was asking about getting skill store reviews and ratings from users. And I can answer that question for you. So in your skill, you can tell people to go review your skills, but you just can't tell them to give you like a 5-star rating or a good review. And if you see here in this link, it'll kind of talk about our Alexa policies with what you can and can't do. So you cannot request users to leave a positive rating of the skill, but you can encourage them to review or rate your skill.
Very good feedback. I'm copying a link here for the most recent question that just came in from Greg Ames on LinkedIn. And I don't think that my comments here will post to LinkedIn, so I'm going to go there. I'll post this for everybody. But the question that Greg was asking was, I want to build a Bluetooth LE button device that can communicate with Alexa. What is the best way to get started? And so I'll post the link for all of you. This isn't going to go to LinkedIn, so I'll have to post it for Greg directly. But you should look into Alexa gadgets. That's the key that you're looking for. And if I can find the live stream on LinkedIn. Here we are. Okay, Greg, I just posted your response. Let's go back to the conversation. Looks like there's a few other things that have flown in here. Does Alexa Metrics have the ability to see the customers that use devices with a screen? Yes, absolutely. There, I believe in the Alexa Metrics, and I haven't been in there in a couple of days. Things change from time to time, but let me go look really quick. If I go to, let's find one of my production skills. I know you can't see my skill right now, but we're gonna dig in and just see. I thought they had a place in here. If there's not, there's still a way for you to do this, but it seems like that would be a thing that would be in here. I'm just struggling to see it. Origins, terminations, invocations, summary. Does that show me? No. People have asked me this a few times, and I just always assumed that of course we would show them. That's customers, sessions. No. Man, maybe I am incorrect.
Yeah, I'm looking at our skill metrics tech doc, and it doesn't look like the specific device is one of the categories that they have for it.
Yeah, and you will not, like, I would not expect that there to be a, here's the kind of device they use. What I would expect is what version of APL does it support, and maybe like screen resolution. Because there are so many, and there's so many third-party devices, it would be very, very hard to like have a listing for like each type of device. But what they will do is kind of group them together and say, well, here are devices that support APL 1.5 or 1.6 or whatever, and then these are devices that have screen resolutions of these specific sizes. So you can easily tell like what the Echo Spot is, the one with the round screen. Like that's a pretty easy one to identify when you just look at screen resolution. But we don't call out specific devices. And this feels like a miss to me. So all of that data is available to you, though, in your code. All of this information, screen resolutions, APL support, all of that is stored in the JSON that it's sent to your skill. So you could log this for yourself pretty easily, but it does look like it is not part of the analytics right now. And that, to me, that feels like a miss. So I'm going to reach out to the team about that one. That seems like something that shouldn't be terribly hard to do either. Fabio wants to know if other people can test his skill because it's in development. Yes, inside the developer console, if you go to the distribution tab, you have build, code, test, and then distribution. If you go to here, I guess probably easier if I just share my screen again. So here I'm in the developer console. I'll go back to my skills just to show you. So this is my list of skills. I'm going to come into this one. And you can see I have build, code, and test. I'm in analytics right now. I'm going to choose distribution. And under distribution, I'm going to choose availability. And right here, you can see that there's a beta test option. So it won't let me do this because this is my skill that's already in production. But on the development version of this, I could certainly do this. But under availability, you can create a beta test. A beta test will run for 90 days. You can invite up to 5,000 people. And you just need their email address. And then they will get an email that says, hey, click here to enable the skill, and then they can use your skill in this beta. Now, the thing to remember is that it's only for 90 days. There's no way to extend that. There's no way to like secretly roll this out. That's the thing that people always ask me about is like, how can I just extend this so that it lasts longer or whatever? You can't do it. So keep that in mind going into this. It's only a 90-day beta at most. But it works really, really well for the purposes of being beta, not for a private deployment kind of situation. Andy Muncie wants to know when the affiliate program is coming to Alexa, like conversational product placement. Man, Andy, I would love that. I use Amazon affiliates all the time in my blog posts. Anytime that I'm telling people about like a cool product or something that I used, I'll often give them an affiliates link, and I make tens of cents a month on that. It's really, really nice.
Wow.
Yeah, it's actually that's not entirely true, and I do. I would bet that I get a $20 to $30 Amazon gift card a month.
That's amazing.
Links
wow.
on like Twitter and stuff like that. So again, it's not a fortune, but it's $20 or $30 a month is nice.
Yeah.
So what he is asking is how can we do that inside Alexa skills? And unfortunately, that's not possible today, but I hope someday in the future it will be. Once they enable the skill, they can test even if this skill is still in development. Stephen Brown is helping with the beta testing. Thank you, Stephen Brown. Let's see. Benjamin Anderson, who's on YouTube, says he has a function that he wrote to calculate which device it is based on whether the screen is round or rectangular, and then what the screen sizes are. He said he will share the code in just a minute. I love the developer community. Someone's already written everything. Oxygen Box wants people to be able to submit a rating via voice rather than going to the app or a website to do it. I think that's a wonderful idea, but no, that is not possible today. It would be nice. I know sometimes after a skill is done, something will pop up and say, hey, by the way, or something else will happen. It would be interesting to offer users the ability to like, hey, would you like to review this skill? Tell me, how would you rate it 1 to 5 stars or whatever? Like that's kind of nice. I don't think that's something the developer can control. It might be a nice mechanism for people to be able to give a rating to a skill. Oh my gosh, we have 4 minutes left. We only have 4 minutes. But now I have a serious question to end with here. Do I bring the beard back? Do I bring it back?
Sorry. I don't know.
People have been asking me. My wife will say no, 100% no. But I haven't shaven in like 5 days, and now it feels like maybe it's time. Probably not.
Yeah, I think both looks suits you, but
Awesome.
you have to make the wife happy too. So
you're very right about that. Alex says he'd rather be able to comment on the ratings as a developer. Yeah. Trade Last recalls. So Annette, I don't know if you happen to see this one video, but there was one day where I decided the beard was coming off, and I started the stream like this. I was just talking, and I was fully bearded, and everybody's asking me like, I'm sideways or whatever. And then I turned, and I had shaved just half the beard off. And I did a whole stream that way. It was pretty funny.
Wow, that's pretty cool. Maybe one day you should bring that back. Like if you ever grow a beard again.
Maybe the fall winter time we'll talk about that. So Andy, you are asking a lot of questions about the future, and as much as I would love to be able to support you, one of our solid policies here on Office Hours is that we, even if we knew about RFID readers or some of the other stuff that you've been asking, we're not in the position where we can answer any of those questions. So while I appreciate your enthusiasm and energy, and I want some of this stuff too, I don't have any answers for you about when things are coming or what the future is going to look like, at least the near-term future. So I apologize. I'm not trying to avoid your questions. We're just not, that's not something we can do here, unfortunately. Andy's question was, when will an RFID reader come to Echo devices so IoT can happen with smart packaging? I'm with you. I think there's a lot of amazing things. I was at a CES, I think it was 2018 CES, and this guy had a device. It was about this size, right? An Echo Flex size. And he had all of this different materials on his booth. So there were pills, like medicine. There were different kinds of cheeses. There was different kinds of metals. There were different beverages in glasses, and it had like a little like sensor, like it shot something out of it, and you could just hold it over the thing, and it would tell you what it was. So it'd be like, oh, that's Swiss cheese. Or the one example he had a real Viagra and a fake Viagra, like a knockoff, like not real medicine Viagra pill. And he could use the scanner and it would tell him whether or not it was valid or not, because it was actually like a molecular sensor. So it was actually looking at it on a molecular scale to say, yes, this is or is not a thing. And then it was doing some machine learning comparison to a database to say, yes, this is or is not the thing it's supposed to be. I felt like putting one of those on the Echo that you have in your kitchen would be amazing, right? Because it could also tell you, like, has this gone bad, right? So, like, imagine having an apple and holding it up and it being like, you don't want to eat that. Like, that'd be amazing, or something like that. So there's lots and lots of cool things that I'd love to see in a device, but unfortunately, not yet. Let's go to Twitch. I want to see that link of my half face. There it is. Yeah, that was also 40 pounds heavy. Good times. Good memories, good times.
It's actually almost a year ago from that picture. Like, we're 2 days away from the day that this picture was taken a year ago.
Wow.
Amazing.
Yeah. So in this past September was when I started on a diet. And from September to January, I lost 40 pounds.
Whoa, so nice.
Now I've put like 7 of them back on because I'm not dieting right now, but I still have like 20 more I want to lose to really get to where I'm going. But food tastes too good. That's the problem.
Yep, agreed.
Oh my gosh, we are right at time. So thank you guys all for tuning in. As always, this is a fun hour for me. This is one of the things I look forward to every week. So thank you guys all for being here. Annette, anything you want to leave people with?
Yeah, keep developing skills. And I love being on here and talking to all y'all. Great ideas and great questions. It
is a lot of fun. All right. Thank you guys all so much. We will see you next week. Take care.